Hey Art,
Nice to meet you.
nice to meet you as well. Thanks
Thank
for
you
having me.
for lending us your movie.
Of course, my pleasure. That's what it's for.
It was great.
Thank
We
you.
have a very we have a small but dedicated crowd tonight.
Fantastic.
Come on in, grab a seat. Are we recording, Alex? She is. It's a very dedicated filmmaker that shows up after getting sick. So I hope you're feeling okay.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
We're gonna pull up a chair, Rocky. Anywhere? Yeah, anywhere. We're just
Mike of the crowd.
Yep. That next to me. It makes little sense. I'm holding a microphone.
Actually, I don't know. Those two comfy chairs right next to you are.
No one wants to sit in the front row.
No one wants to sit next to me. I'm the problem.
Just spread out.
Those were taken.
Hey,
It's so divine.
did we lose other Derek? I don't know. I'm sure he'll be in a minute. Carmen, tell me a little bit about your film. Like, what made you want to tell this story?
Yeah, so this film was the first documentary I ever created back in my freshman year of college. So that was 2018. I had wanted to create it after I returned from an internship in Bethlehem, Palestine, where I got to spend 2 weeks filming with a couple of fellow interns from Valparaiso University. And one of the interns happened to be Sawyer Patrick, and he talked to me about his gender transition story. I talked to him about wanting to be a filmmaker, but not really digging the whole Hollywood culture. And he said, well, why don't you make documentaries? So I'm like, well, can I make one about you? And we came back home, and I just kind of tried to watch as many documentaries as I could and just, go for it and give it a stab. And documentary has been my lifeblood ever since. I can't get enough of it.
Very cool.
But
So,
yeah, sorry to answer your question about why I decided to tell this story. I think people like Sawyer Patrick deserve to have a platform to talk about their identity, because it is kind of a difficult conversation to have. And even in the film, you see that Sawyer's own parents couldn't handle it, or weren't asking the right questions or reacting to it in a loving way. So I think it's important for people to be mindful about that.
very cool. So since you're sitting right next to me, I'll ask you, Rocky. And you take my trust me, everybody can hear me.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm interested. What brought you to Toboggan and the story you ended up telling?
That one was just Jeff, the main kind of character, the guy with the beard, texted me in December of last year and said, "We're going to build a toboggan and go to Maine. Do you want to film this?" And that was pretty much it. Kind of like he formed his team as
Like the fifth member of the team at that point.
Yeah, well, we were, and and I always like to tell people we actually had two extra seats at that dinner table, and I got to eat the freshly prepared lobster and all that stuff from that innkeeper that was there, and so that was a fantastic experience. But yeah, I mean, I think to me, it's so what was so special about that was that he asked us in December if we would do it. They built the toboggan in January. We filmed the race in February, and the film was done in March. And I think that, like, to me, that was like really special, right? Just how quickly something like that can come together, and how if you just let people who are obvious characters just kind of live in front of the camera and do their thing, they tell a really good story in and of themselves.
And that's part of what I love about that film is how you sculpted them as characters. You know, like even to the point where at the end of the end credits, they get their own kind of, you know, Marvel moment, right? With their name over.
You have to at that point. Like you might as well just go all in, you know. So yeah, one of my favorite techniques that we got to use in that particular film is having characters characterize other characters, right? So really important. We were really deliberate about having each of them talk about each other, because then you get a little bit of both, right? You get to know a little bit about Joe when Joe explains who Miles is, and you get to hear a little bit, you know. And so having characters describe each other is a really good tactic for especially documentary filmmaking, I think.
And back to Derek. Derek, tell us about a little bit about your films. How did you come to tell your stories?
How did I come to tell my stories? Running documentary was very run and gun.
Okay.
Definitely. I'm not sure all what was played. I kind of got it there at the last second. I guess it's just kind of whatever feels natural.
Okay. What brought you to the National Down Syndrome Society? What made you want to tell that story?
Well, my dad went to high school with the president's husband in high school. So that was kind of like a weird mutual connection. I just got talking to Candy, and she's like, well, we're doing this awesome run throughout the desert. It'd be really cool if you followed us with the camera. And I was like, I want to take that and make it a project that I can be proud of too. So I got my friend Jack involved, and we all just tried to do what we could with what we had, which was a lot of like not sleeping and eating wet noodles in the car. Nothing but salt noodles. I don't know. Every project is definitely a learning experience. So it's just exploration. Yeah. Was it? Yeah.
What inspired a good ride?
Family, definitely. Yeah. Well, that was obviously, I don't know, it's not obvious. It was my mom on camera and then my actual great grandma on camera. So it was a lot about like how the roles of the caregiver switches between the son or from the mother to the son. So just wanted to shoot in locations that were close to my heart so that I could look back at like one of the first films I'd ever made and just see those places. So I don't know. She loves being on camera. She's like, anytime that she can get the camera in front of her face, she like just glows, lights up about it.
Yeah, it was like
She'll love whatever you guys.
Yeah.
Maggie Gyllenhaal?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll tell her.
Yeah.
So, I mean, one of the things we're here to do tonight is kind of celebrate dots and those kinds of things, but it strikes me basically, you know, from our conversation earlier as well. You know, what do you guys think? You know, it was really funny, Carmen, when you mentioned not wanting to be of the Hollywood state of mind kind of thing. What are the benefits and challenges of being an Indiana filmmaker?
Oh boy, that's a big question. I would say that the biggest challenges are funding. You have to get more creative as far as funding your content, going kind of the grassroots route of reaching out to businesses and individual donors, whereas, you know, in New York and LA, it's a bit easier to get those connections, people with deeper pockets. But I like that challenge because it forces me to go out in my community and get to know people, and really try to offer something mutually beneficial. I think the greatest thing about being a filmmaker in Indiana is being able to tell stories that aren't typically on the big screen. You know, I don't often see folks, Hoosiers, featured in stories that end up in film festivals and stuff like that. So to be able to tell these kinds of stories and show, you know, people outside of Indiana that we're not all, you know, just cornfields and all of the other, you know, stereotypes that people put on Indiana. We're not just a state you drive through and never get out and get to know the people, that we're a lot more than that, and we're worth, you know, having our stories told.
I don't think I can add anything to that. I think that, I mean, I think that Carmen's a great example of the filmmakers that we've, you know, met through HODOCS. And I think that just to reiterate, really not to add to, but to reiterate the fact that Indiana is an incredible place with a lot of really incredible people. I use this quote a lot. I don't know who actually said it. I think, it gets attributed to Mr. Rogers a lot, but there's the quote that it's impossible not to love someone if you really hear their story. And I think that we maybe have a little bit of like an inferiority complex in Indiana sometimes about certain things. And so I think that film in general, but maybe especially documentary, when you really take like a very genuine and authentic look at people and their stories, documentary can elevate and maybe put, like Carmen said, on a platform people's stories in a really special way. And I think there's a lot of really good ones in Indiana that deserve to be told. So to me, that's what HODOCS is about. It's about creating that platform. In the trailer that we watched beforehand, Ira Mallory, a filmmaker, in Indianapolis, mentioned that there's just so many filmmakers out there that work really hard and create something, and there's not a great place to put it. You just, what do you put it on, slap it up on YouTube and let people watch it, 300 people watching on Facebook or whatever. And so there's festivals, which is awesome. But those are, a specific time, a very specific window. So I'm excited about what HODOCS can do to invite Hoosiers to watch more content like this.
It's really funny when a few months back, before the tax passed in Indiana, I was talking to Senator Bush, our senator, and he said, one of the hesitations to passing the tax had been for a long time that Indiana didn't want to spend its money on Hollywood films. And I said to him, then why not invest it in Indiana filmmakers? And it was like a light bulb on. Like that hadn't even occurred to him.
Yeah.
That there were people here, and we're just attracting talent from Los Angeles and New York that they were here that would be using those incentives.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Well, and I think I love that about Carmen has said many times, and other filmmakers that I've met through HODOCS. And Carmen, please elaborate on this. I certainly don't want to misquote you, and perhaps you can tell us more. But very deliberate decision not to leave Indiana, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's what we want to see more of. But I don't know if you maybe tell us more about that, what that decision making process was like for you. I mean, I didn't go to school to study. I just I knew I was going to stay here anyway before I started making films. So it was never a decision for me. But you could have left.
Yeah, I could have. I graduated in May of 2020 when the pandemic was, exactly. So I didn't want to pay New York or LA rent just to stay in my apartment. And I think it kind of decided for me. And gosh, the first week after I decided I'm just going to grow my roots here, it felt so right. Because I want to be part of the movement here in Indiana to prove that we do have the talent here to make films. I think a lot of Hollywood or LA and New York producers I've talked to are like, well, if I bring my production to Indiana, who's going to be on the crew? Like, there's not even enough talent there to make anything. And that's so wrong and such a misconception. So I think I'm just like raring to be part of the movement to like centralize us and bring us together and help show the rest of our country that there's a lot of talent here and we're ready to work and get paid fairly for our work and tell these stories here in Indiana.
Let's back to Derek. So Derek, what do you think? What are the benefits and challenges to being a filmmaker here in Indiana?
Benefit is it's a small room, so your voice is definitely heard if you do anything. So,
Okay, literally.
Literally anything, yeah. The downside is we're so disconnected from a larger market that it's hard to even educate yourself on what else is going on in the country or internationally. You have to know how to do your homework and meet someone who can show you the roots, I guess, or show you the ropes. Benefits, again, people will just support you for if you do want to do a film or a documentary, there's going to be people who will get behind your back for it. And it's not too hard to find like-minded individuals because I don't know. For me, it's like people who are just kind of doing independent video and they're small platforms, but getting those people in the same room together is really interesting because it's like, look, here we all are. But I don't know. I don't know what I don't know.
No, it's funny because I think that one of the things that we've tried to be here at Cinema Center is one of those kind of gathering points. Right, showing the Q&As after the film, doing stuff like this. It's been about being a place where people can come and hopefully have these kinds of conversations where they can say, hopefully my hope is in a Q&A, somebody asks a question about cinematography and somebody else in the room is going, is that a cinematographer? Like, can I work with that person? Is there somebody else in the room that wants to be this kind of nerd with me? Because the nerddom of this is something that has to be translated in groups, right? I've said it probably 50 times already tonight, and I'll say it once again on camera that when the credits roll, it's never just one name, right? And it's a collaborative art form that most people, we hear constantly people talk about directors, right? Because it's just easier, right? I know people will give all the credit to the director, but it's never the director that does it all, and so I think it's really great to have a place to put things. When we did our documentary, I think we released in 2014. And we did our festival run, I was in Paris with it, and I was in Vegas with it, and California, all these kinds of things, and then it was over. Yeah. And you're like, that was a lot of fun, and it was cool, and my movie raised a lot of really good questions with people, and now it's a file on my computer.
Yeah. That's probably a story told, 100,000 times, not just in Indiana, but everywhere. It's pretty crazy. So,
having a place to go to distribute and have these kinds of conversations. I always joke with the patrons here at Cinema Center that if you leave the theater talking about something other than the movies, we show the rumble. Right? It should be a conversation starter. That's something that motivates you to want to do something or want to think about something or have these kinds of moments. So, for you guys, what can we do? What are the things that as a community, as Cinema Center, that we can do to help you?
I think the community building piece is just huge. To me, I know that, and I don't know, Carmen, I'm interested to hear what you think too, especially since collectively here, we represent a pretty good swath. We don't have anybody from way down south, but
yeah.
You're all the way up in about almost as far north as we can get.
Yeah.
Here we are somewhere in between right now. And so I think that we could take better advantage of the fact that we all, are supposed to be connected so well by these things in our pockets. And I don't know that I do a great job of that, but we could probably do a better job. And I think that having things like these hubs, geographic hubs like Cinema Center, is great for when we can be together in a physical space. But something like HODOX, and then I guess the ways that we can interact with something like HODOX online is really helpful too. Watch the films and talk about the films. Obviously huge. I think that's one of the reasons why festivals are so important and so impactful. And by the way, a little obviously plug for Hobnobbin coming up. And before
Yeah.
just, this is the way my brain works. I'm always thinking about 6 things at once. I think we should talk to Carmen about her film that's going to be here.
Okay.
Because I think it's one, I don't know how many times it's been shown, but it's pretty early on in your festival run. So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
But I think that, if you can take that kind of model of the energy that's built around festivals and being able to see so many films at one time, and you can kind of think about dispersing that a little bit, with, okay, we have a streaming platform where people can go and watch. You could, for a while I was doing a family movie night where we would pick our movie that we wanted to watch together as a family on Netflix or Disney Plus or whatever, but we would watch a HODOX short first. And, so we'd watch a HODOX short and then we'd watch whatever. And oftentimes, to your point about the conversation, oftentimes my kids would have questions or talk about the documentary just as much, if not more, than the movie we chose to watch. And so I think activating that, so subscribing to HODOX, of course, but watching things and then sharing about them Because I think something interesting that you brought up about the file on your computer, you know. I think that the other thing that we as filmmakers tend to do is to think about the next project, right? Pretty quickly. And so what I think is especially sad is that you know, we watched Carmen's first documentary film tonight. There's no reason why that film can't continue to educate people, to spark conversation, to inspire folks. There's no reason why teacher of patience should be the only thing Carmen is talking about, or the only thing, the only work that Carmen has, or you know, any number of works that a filmmaker creates. So I think that like there's a, I hesitate to use the word archival, but there is that quality to it, you know, that like HOBNOBBEN can have all of this really great content that could be from 5 years ago or 10 years ago. And so I think that's a fantastic advantage too.
I definitely think the conversation about gender has not ended. So I think.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Why don't you
Yeah.
tell us a little bit, answer my question, I'll do this back there so we can answer here in a minute. Talk to me a little bit about what Cinema Center can do for you.
Yeah, I mean, well, what you guys in the audience can do as well. I always tell people to subscribe to HOBNOBBEN because I believe in that platform wholeheartedly. Aside from that, though, like Rocky was saying, when we get into a new project, it's laser focused because we have to be laser focused to make it happen. So just treating us like filmmaking can get very lonely. And we put our whole heart and souls into these films. It's not like I'm just typing numbers into a spreadsheet all day. I mean, this is my heart and soul, you know? So it can be a very emotional process. And I think just that emotional support, which you give by giving us a platform like this to talk about the challenges and struggles and joys of being a filmmaker. So I think that's really great. I had one more. It is escaping me. I might think of it.
Okay, well, what about you, Jared?
I think creating a competitive environment in a small town like Fort Wayne is really hard to do, but something like HOBNOBBEN definitely helps. I don't know. I'm 20 on social media, kind of a lot, but I don't hear about people my age making films. And I don't know, if I heard about a project like a casting or something like that, or they just need extra hands one day, I would totally be there for it. But we just don't hear anything like that, or at least I don't. So maybe that's something else it could do, is just be a platform, a hub for people to get on set more often, something like that. More competitive too, as in like, maybe it's solo, or maybe you're assembling a little bit of a crew, like maybe cities are competing or something like that, since it is so location based. I think that could be interesting. I don't know.
Okay.
Okay. I did think of one more thing.
Sure.
So the whole conversation around money as a filmmaker can feel really taboo. And I think places like Cinema Center can be a great source of advocacy for paying filmmakers fairly. I know I get so many referrals for projects that people expect me to do for free just because I love the work. And that's not sustainable. The more time I give away for free to someone else, the less time I have to put towards films, because I have to make money and pay rent somehow. So I think advocating for filmmakers to be treated, for their craft to be treated like something monetizable and valuable, like fiscally valuable, is really important as well.
Somehow karmically through the universe, you heard the conversation we had before the film.
No way.
We spent about an hour talking about this before the film. So well done for tapping into that conversation.
Thank you. I'm not surprised.
So we've got a crowd full of people here. Do we have any questions? Does anybody want to ask anything? Don't work for free.
Yeah.
Carmen, I'm one of the co-chairs for HOBNOBBEN Film Festival. I really enjoyed Teacher of Patience, and I'm really
Thank
excited.
you.
I didn't know that you were the filmmaker of it, and I'm just really happy to meet you, and I hope that you can come down to the festival.
Likewise. Yeah, I'm definitely coming down. I'm hoping to come down for the full weekend, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate HOBNOBBEN giving me the platform for Teacher of Patience. It's going to be so fun.
Sorry, I'm the other co-chair off camera. It's so nice to see a face to the work that we got to see and experience. Absolutely love your film.
Thank you so much. That kind of feedback like feeds my soul, because I can't tell you how many days I spent alone just in front of my computer editing, wondering if this is ever gonna like if anyone's ever going to resonate with the film. So every time I hear something like that, it means a lot. Thank you.
Well, we're looking forward to having you here in person.
Yeah, I can't wait. Hopefully COVID free, you know?
We wish you a speedy recovery.
I appreciate it. It's not that bad this time around. I'm doing well. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else want to pop in before we wrap up for the evening?
I missed the introductions in the very beginning. I don't really know many of you actually, so
Okay.
we could do kind of like.
Okay, well, I'm Art Herbig.
Hi, Art.
Amanda,
Hi, Amanda.
co-chair of HOBNOBBEN, board member of Cinema Center. Yes, Alex. Co-chair.
Yep.
Other picture. I feel like I introduced myself, but just kidding.
We can say hi to Cambry too.
Hi, Cambry.
Hi, I'm Cambry there. You're pretty much doing those things that you know. My name's Cambry. I am the senior curator here at Cinema Center. So bulk of the agenda and programming is myself. I'm off camera right now, but hi.
Hi.
I'm sitting on the screen, but I'm going to be
All right.
And Mr. Devine. Don't know you.
Derek Devine, I'm the board president at Cinema Center and I own a company called Punch Films. So we're a production company here in town.
Awesome.
Yeah, I guess.
We talked on camera.
I'm Zach Downs, so I'm the other co-founder of 12 Stars Media with Rocky.
Yeah.
Well, this was a lot of fun. Everybody, thank you for coming. Thank you, Carmen, for doing this even while ill, and we wish you,
Of course.
the fastest of recovery so that we can get to your next film.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for including me. It was so fun.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Take
Have a
care.
good night. Bye.
Bye.
So there'll be eventually outcomes for, well, potentially three outcomes for this. There's one, it'll air on, I'll shoot it there.